What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is Thursday night, 9 o'clock. Sometimes we do Q&A. Sometimes we do whatever. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like really obnoxious or really ornery. And I'm like, you know what? Tonight, NBR, baby. Nothing but rants. That's what we call this show. This is where I bring you topics I'm extremely passionate about. I talk really passionately about them. You listen, and I hope it's entertaining for you. And meanwhile, in between, while I'm taking a breath, catching my breath, letting collect my thoughts in between the next segment, we take phone calls every once in a while. Tonight is a jam-packed show. I mean, a loaded show. A bunch of guys and a bunch of topics that I'm really passionate about. Obviously, nothing but rants. It's the whole idea of the show. The Discord family likes when I drink. This is a Mama Bear coffee cup. So I am a Papa Bear, not a Mama Bear. But the Discord channel over there on the Patreon.com account likes when I drink a little Death Wish coffee before we come on here because I get like super hyped up and way too energetic. That's exactly what happened tonight. And yes, I am rocking my shorter gear. Wiped the dust off of it. Haven't put this joker on since probably my last road trip. This is our travel shirt. And anybody who's ever played football knows for a fact that you steal the travel suit the moment you leave the school because they can't come after you. They can't charge your account. They can't do nothing. So you just jug it finesse. You take it with you and you keep it in your closet until one day you want to rock it on your Nothing But Rant show. So tonight, again, loaded show. Let me give you the rundown. Obviously, Jordan Davis returned today or announced he's returning today. Mark Webb actually just announced right now as we went live that he's not returning. We're not going to talk about that too much, but we'll talk about Jordan Davis returning. We'll talk about my plans, what I think Georgia should do with their defense in 2021 now that we kind of know what's going to be going on in terms of roster-wise. A little segment I call Down to Two with Jamari Sawyer and Zamir White, the last two big names that I'm expecting some type of decision from sometime soon. I'm going to play a little game of If I Was Your Agent with those two guys. So feel free to stick around with that. A lot of loaded information about those two guys' NFL draft situations. We'll talk about whether or not Jamie Newman made the correct decision. We'll be real brief on that because I don't feel like beating a dead horse. And then finally, and most importantly, might be my most passionate topic of today, we'll talk about that clown show going on up in Knoxville. It is a clown show, by the way. It is an absolute clown show. I'll give you all the details I know about that one. So feel free to stick around for the end of the show. Probably my best and most passionate rant coming on that. And, about an hour in, there's no telling what I'll end up being, saying at that point when I'm really hyped up and I really got the juices flowing and the takes are super hot, like 50 minutes into those things. So if you've ever done a live show like this, I know not a lot of people have. If you've ever done any, ranting in a solo type show atmosphere like this, you really catch your groove. It's almost like that jogger's high. If you've ever been a runner, like 30 minutes in, the first 30 minutes suck, right? When you're running, but once you hit that 32-minute, 33-minute mark, you really can't feel it anymore. You really catch your stride. You get your breathing pattern paced out correctly. You get your stride pattern paced out correctly. Exact same thing when it comes to talking to a camera and a microphone by yourself with nothing but, a couple phone calls every once in a while and a bottle of water sitting over there that you'll never see me touch because it's nothing but flaming hot takes. So, we're going to talk about Zeus here in a minute, Jay Money. Sorry, I'm taking commenters or seeing commenters as they fly up. Of course, again, we'll be taking phone calls in between the segments. If you want to know how to get the phone number, sign up for the Patreon account. Patreon.com/Brooks Austin. That's how you get your time to shine on Nothing But Rants. You get in here and give me your opinions or give me your questions. We've had some good callers up in there. So OGs, feel free to hop in there. It is first come, first serve. So we'll load you up. I got two phone lines over here. We'll get you put on there and we'll go from there in between each rant. Please feel free to like, thumbs up, whatever, share, all that good stuff. I know a bunch of you guys watch me on different platforms. Some of you watch me on Facebook. I know that's where my mom catches me. Appreciate you, mama. Like me over there, sharing in whatever Facebook groups you want to. If you're on YouTube, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button if you're not already. And while you're there, hit the notifications button so you don't miss any live shows. Sometimes I'll be sporadic and spring those on you. And, of course, if you're on Twitter, please hit that retweet. All right, so first segment I got tonight is, of course, about Big Jordan Davis coming back, and it's going to roll into what I expect or what I think Georgia should do defensively in 2021 with their roster as it currently sits. When I heard about Jordan Davis returning, the first thing that came to my mind, despite enjoying him thoroughly enjoying watching him on tape, was the comment Kirby Smart made in one of his press conferences this year. He said, and I quote, "I'd be really, really happy if we had 3 Jordan Davises." That's exactly the way I feel. If Georgia had 3 Jordan Davises, defense would be even more stout than it already is. As you know, over the last 2 years, Georgia's defense has only allowed 72 rushing yards per game. It has led the nation, okay? Not the SEC, not the SEC East, the nation in rushing yards per game allowed. A lot of that, and I would say about 60% of that, has to do with the fact that Jordan Davis is in there manning everything down, okay? With Kirby Smart's odd front, and I put it in quotation marks because you followed any of my work, you know how I am about this odd front defense that's really an even front 4-down defense. They play a true zero a lot. And if they're not playing a true zero, they play a shade tech. And if you're going to do what Georgia does schematically, you've got to have a monster. You got to have a monster in that middle that can not only demand double teams sometimes, but even sometimes require a triple team. There's oftentimes on tape where you'll see Jordan Davis up in there with a triple team getting pulled up. We always stop for our super subscribers. Robert, I appreciate you. Use this for a month of Patreon for Alexander. Robert, I appreciate you. I was going to take care of Alex's, but I'll take care of it with you. That's the type of community that we've got over on Patreon. And I'm going to divert for a second to talk about this because I'm really, really proud about what we got over there, especially on the Discord and just the Patreon in general. Bunch of really great people, bunch of really nice people that treat each other really, really well. That's what I'm talking about. And if you didn't jump in the show earlier, if you're just jumping in, we had a young man that said he couldn't quite afford the Patreon services. So Robert hopped in here, saw the comment, and said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it." That's what the kind of stuff that we've got going on the Patreon account. That's the stuff. Views don't matter to me. Subscription numbers don't matter to me. This right here matters the most to me, that we've got people that care about the community enough to want to grow the community itself, okay? That means a lot to me, Rob. I appreciate you, brother. Let's get back to JD talk right here. So, anyways, Georgia's defense requires a 6'6", 340-pound guy up there in the middle requiring double teams. I know Kirby Smart's happy. I know Georgia fans are happy, but I'll tell you, nobody on this planet is happier than Nakobe Dean and that linebacker room. Nobody. Because the reason Georgia's linebackers have led the team in tackles for the last 2 years is because of Jordan Davis. The year before, in 2018, guess who led the team in tackles? Richard LeCount. That's who led the team in tackles. Since Jordan Davis has taken over that role as the nose tackle and solidified that role as the nose tackle, Monty Rice led the team in tackles in 2019. Nakobe Dean led the team in tackles in 2020. That is no coincidence. Okay, that is what happens when you've got a guy like this in Jordan Davis that is manning the middle of that Georgia defense, and it is really, really important to have that type of guy. It's why you saw them recruit Mason Smith as hard as they did. It's why you saw them go after Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins in 2021. It's why you saw them bring in Marlon Dean, who's about 6'6", 300 pounds, and has the frame to hold up to about 330. That is no coincidence. Those guys are on that roster for a reason. It is to replace this guy when he eventually leaves for the NFL. And by the way, I can't wait. I'm almost disappointed. I'm really, really excited I get to see him play next year, but I'm almost disappointed that I don't get to see him blow up the combine this year. I guess it will only have to wait. So that rolls into our next segment, which is what I would do. I call this my plans for the 2021 defense. Okay, we talked a little bit about scheme alignment, and this is going to get really, really scheme heavy. So I hope I can explain it the best way I can. And I think I can. I think I've been able to figure out how to dumb down football knowledge as much as I can because that's kind of my gift. That's why the Patreon's there. It's to educate people in the best way I can. I put it in a kindergartner's language. So let's try to explain this odd even front is what I'll call it. This odd even front that Kirby Smart in Georgia runs, okay? They call it the Mint defense. If you've ever listened to Kirby Smart at a coaching conference, I suggest you do. It's really, really entertaining. Glenn Schumann ultimately takes it over eventually. But you should go find those things on YouTube. They're really educational, coming straight from the horse's mouth. But I'll summarize it right here. They run what's called a mint defense. What is a mint defense? Okay, it is a hybrid of the three-man front and the four-man front. Okay, it's got a true zero in Jordan Davis, a defensive tackle that plays in a three technique. That's been Devontae Wyatt this year. A defensive end that's either playing in a head-up five or a four-eye technique. What is a head-up five? A head-up five is head up on the tackle. A four-eye is the inside shoulder of the tackle. So Malik Herring has either lined up in a head-up five or a four-eye technique during his time as a defensive end, okay? And then they play a jack, right? They only play one outside linebacker on most downs because they are a 4-2-5 defense. The jack plays more a traditional defensive end's role as a 7 technique, right? The outside shoulder of the tackle. That's the mint defense. Typically, a four-man defense typically has a shade technique, a 3 technique, and 2 7 techniques. Kirby has revamped that, gone a 0, a 3, a 4-eye, and a 7 tech, okay? You follow me there? That's what he likes to run. But here's the deal. Heading into 2021, Georgia's in quite a predicament in terms of their roster. Nothing on tape tells me Nolan Smith can do what Azeez Ojulari did in terms of playing a traditional hand-down 7 technique defensive end. I know he's listed as an outside linebacker 90% of the time in a 4-down front. Azeez Ojulari has played more of a traditional defensive ends role. Nothing on tape shows me that Nolan Smith can do that. Nothing in Kirby Smart's decision-making in terms of roster management tells me he believes Adam Anderson can do that. Have you ever seen Adam Anderson on the field on early downs? No. You know why? Because they don't think he can hold the edge. They don't think he can set the edge in the run game. Think he's too light in the pants. I'm guessing. That's what I would surmise from that, okay? Nothing tells me either one of those guys can and will play a traditional defensive ends role as a 7 tech with their hand down, setting the edge in the run game. So what does that do? It pretty much throws away the mint defense. He doesn't have that experienced hybrid outside linebacker defensive end. The only guy on his roster that does have that type of mold, that does have that type of physicality is MJ Sherman. He's not ready to play, and he's not going to play over Nolan Smith and over Adam Anderson. So here's what I suggest. Because you can't keep Jermaine Johnson. He's already gone to Florida State. That would have been the immediate interim, like the immediate guy that stepped in, but he's gone. So here's what I suggest they do. I suggest they actually run a 3-4. You've listed yourself as a 3-4 defense since you took over the job in 2016. You played it in 2016. You played it in 2017. In 18, 19, and 20, you switched to this mint defense. I suggest you go back to the standard 3-4 instead of this 4-2-5 that you so love these last 2 years, okay? Play Jordan Davis at the true 0 technique. Play him straight up over the center. Play Trayvon Walker as a 4-eye inside the shade of the tackle. Play Jalen Carter at the other 4-eye inside shade of the tackle. Those 2 guys in that alignment will do everything you want them to do in terms of demanding double teams. And then at that point in time, play Nolan Smith and Adam Anderson on the field at the same time. Get back to playing a true 3-4 defense. That's what your roster configuration says you need to do. So that's what I would do. The only problem is there is a catch with this. Kirby likes to play man-to-man defense, okay? It's what he's moved his defense towards. He likes this odd front defense. He likes what it does to offenses and their combinations on their offensive line, okay? He likes it. He likes what it does to them. He likes the freedom it creates for their inside linebackers. So what I suggest you do is get back to the 3-4, and it's going to force you into playing a lot more zone coverage, which I know he doesn't want to do. But, again, your roster says you can't run a 4-2-5 effectively next year unless Adam Anderson shows up 20 pounds heavier and unless Nolan Smith shows up 20 pounds heavier and is able to hold the weight. Go look at pictures, and I'll put them out today. Go look at pictures of Nolan Smith in August and look at him now. His body hadn't been able to hold the weight that he showed up in camp with. He's got a hypo, what do you call it? What I don't have, which is your metabolism, right? A really fast metabolism. Some guys can't hold weight. Some guys just never put it on. And even if they do put it on, some guys can't hold it. Okay. They start running around. The body starts burning. Calorie intake. Doesn't matter. You can't hold that weight. So get back to the 3-4. Now, The problem is, again, you can't run man-to-man coverage against 11 personnel that all of these offenses now run, okay? What is 11 personnel for people who don't know and don't follow my Patreon account? It's 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, a back, and a quarterback, right? Well, now in the SEC, with the way these tight ends have gotten, you can't have outside linebackers like Nolan Smith and Adam Anderson out there covering Kyle Pitts. It's a nightmare. It's not going to happen. So it leaves you exposed. It forces you into zone coverage. So what Georgia started doing was, we'll run the mint defense. We'll run the mint front. We'll play a star, right? We'll play that additional DB, a nickel, if you will. We'll play him, and we'll get into man-to-man coverage. We'll put Tyreek Stevenson in man-to-man, or we'll put him in the box and blitz him and roll Richard LeCount over the top of him and play man. Those guys are gone, okay? Or at least Richard is. So you're going to have to get away from that. You're going to have to play a lot more zone defense moving forward if you go back to a traditional 3-4 set, which is what I would do, because, again, it boils down to the fact that your outside linebacker room in a matter of 3 weeks has become what was a major depth point, right? Everybody was talking about how deep the OLB's room is. Now you look up and go, oh, crap, there's only 3 of them with any type of game experience. Robert Beal, yeah, sure. Okay, there's only 3 of them. What are we going to do? Well, you're going to have to get back to playing a 3-4 defense and playing both of them at the same time, because their skill sets say they can play a little bit in space and blitz, but they can't set the edge in the run game. Nothing about Nolan Smith's tape says they can. Nothing about Kirby's decision-making says he believes Adam Anderson can. Jay Calloway, appreciate you, bro. We'll answer the question while you add on additional month for Alexander. Do you think UGA will ever run a true even front and consistent slanting if we don't have a true zero tech like JD? So to answer this question, even though it's not Q&A night, he's a super sub right here. He's a super subscriber. He has just thrown the show some money in favor of Alexander getting yet another month over there on the Patreon account. So Alex getting a little bit of love on tonight's show, which I appreciate that. That's the community showing love, and that is our community. It's all love. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I've seen Georgia get into more of a traditional 4-man front. They did it against Cincinnati. They had Jordan Davis at a shade tech. They had Devontae Wyatt as a 3 tech. They had Adam Anderson and Azeez Ojulari on the field at the same time. It was about 5 or 6 reps. Most of them were 3rd and mediums, some 3rd and longs. But are they ever going to open up the game in that? That's the question you need to be asking. Are they ever going to come out against a traditional offensive set and play a traditional 4-down front defense? I don't know. I know one thing I've learned about covering Georgia and covering the insto facto Kirby Smart is, if you're trying to predict what that joker's going to do, you got a losing proposition. It's just not going to happen. He's very unpredictable, especially in the way that he goes schematically defensively. You're never going to be able to figure it out. I didn't expect them to split out Azeez Ojulari and Nolan Smith and covering tight ends to take away the screen game against Cincy. I knew he was going to do it against Auburn because I had seen him do it in years past. And I'd seen Auburn get into screen sets where you've got to do that type of stuff. Didn't expect to see it against Cincy, and he threw it at him. So, yeah, trying to predict that joker is it's a losing proposition. Again, we are taking phone calls tonight. If you want to holler at us, the show number is on the Patreon account. We will stop the show for whoever wants to call in. But if there's not, I'm going to take a quick sip of this water right here, and we'll get into our Down to 2 segment with Jamari Sawyer and Zamir White, where I'll play the agent, the role of the agent. I think this is our best segment tonight. I'm really excited about this one. Yeah, never could be an agent because agents are guys that are like really, really what are they pump smoke, right? I don't pump smoke. We got our first phone call tonight. Knoxville, Tennessee. Knoxville, we got something for you coming up. What do you got for me, Knoxville?
Hey, brother, it's Matt. How are you?
I'm doing well, Matt. How are you, bro?
I'm good, bro. Hey, let's clear the air. Twitter's been hot. Seen a lot of 2021 has a better shot at a natty at 2017. Maybe not talent-wise, but because Clemson's losing a quarterback, Bama's losing a quarterback. But I don't think these fans understand how much these guys reload. So let's get your thoughts, and I think it's an interesting take. I don't buy it, but let's see. I mean, talent-wise, maybe, but those guys reload too. So
appreciate you, man. I'll answer your question off air. Hey, It's January 7th. I don't really like to do this, but I just did it on our Dogs Daily podcast. They had me on there. Shout out to Jeremiah, Jonathan, and Kyle. If Kirby Smart don't win a national championship in 2021, I don't know when he will, okay? Here's the deal. You've got 16 returning starters as is right now. We'll talk about Zamir White here in a second. As is, you've got 16 returning starters. That's all but 6, okay? All but 6. You returned the most important player, in my opinion, on your defense in Jordan Davis. You returned the most important player on your team in JT Daniels. You have more weapons offensively than any other team in the SEC next year. Fact. Find me the SEC team that's got more weapons on the outside. You won't. They're gone. Devontae Smith is gone. Mechie will be great at Alabama. Good. Fine. Slade Clovis or Cade Slovis. Slade Clovis. Cade Slovis at Alabama. Okay. I'm taking Georgia's guys over those. You've got an offense that finally can score at will. They can score at will, which if you've watched a college football playoff game over the last 4 years, 5 years, that's what it requires. Great defense is overrated. I'm telling you right now, great defense is overrated. LSU last year's defense, I think, gave up almost 30 points a game. It's because their offense was scoring at such a damn high rate that the defense was just sitting back and cover 4 all game and saying, yeah, you can score late in the fourth quarter. We're already up 4 scores. Who cares? So they gave up 28 points because they were scoring 48 points. Great offense in college football is required to win a national championship. They've got it. Again, you're the most talented and most experienced football team in the SEC. All those other teams reload. That's great. Georgia doesn't have to reload for the first time in a long time. So, yeah, the expectations for next year should be national titles. Should be. And if they don't win it, it is a disappointment, in my opinion. Okay? Because when I look at the tape, when I look at the roster, not only are they extremely talented, I thought over the last 3 years, 2017 was an anomaly. I don't think you should have expected that. And when it did happen, it shouldn't have become the new expectation. But now you're 5 years into recruiting as one of the nation's powerhouses. You're 5 years in. You've stacked 5 classes, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. 5 classes at the University of Georgia in the top 3 in the nation. Consensus. You should be fighting for a national title. That's period. Period. You should walk into every single year moving forward, and your expectations should be national title, especially in 2021. Because next year, I would suspect JT Daniels leaves. I would suspect George Pickens leaves. I would suspect Nakobe Dean leaves. You're losing Jordan Davis. Who knows if Lewis Cine decides to leave? Okay, all of those questions, they're going to come up in 2022. Your window is open and will close at the end of 2021. It's a whole lot of pressure. Okay, it is a lot of pressure to put on a football program. But guess what? That's why that joker makes about $4 million a year. Okay. You created these. You created these expectations. If I remember correctly, it was Kirby Smart that said year in and year out, the expectation should be for Georgia to be fighting for a national championship. I believe he's the one that set those expectations. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. But I remember him saying that, not just me, some gas bag on YouTube and on Nothing But Rants. Okay. The expectation should be national titles. And if they don't win, it is a disappointment. Do not get it twisted. Okay. So that's the way I feel. Matt, I know you wanted me to probably join your side on that, but if you're really, really serious about it, think about it. What 7-2 or 8-2 football team returns 16 starters next year, one of which is a Heisman candidate at the quarterback position, and showed that, he could throw for about 400 yards a game if he wants to, if he needs to. If you ask him to, he can. Find me the team that does that and is recruited at an elite level, and yeah, I'll listen to your expectations. Ugalele proved this year at Clemson, he struggled to beat Boston College. He lost to Notre Dame. He might be better next year. That's fine. But they lose a boatload of weapons defensively. Yeah, they do every year. They reload every year because they recruit like that. Alabama, I don't know if Mac Jones is coming back. I mean, everyone assumes he's leaving, but he may not. He may be back next year. Who knows? He has another year of eligibility. He's just a junior. So he might come back. And even if he doesn't, Bryce Young's going to make some freshman mistakes next year. Ohio State, who knows who their quarterback's going to be? It's probably going to be C.J. Stroud. So, yeah, Natty or bust, baby. Natty or bust. Get your screen records out. Natty or bust. If it doesn't happen, it is a disappointment. All right. That was a loud clap. My favorite segment of tonight, we're calling it Down to Two. I'm going to be playing the role of agent Jamari Sawyer and Zamir White. Okay. I'm pretending I'm an agent, but I'm really going to give you the real here. So the information I give you, if I say if a draft stock is X, the draft stock is X based off my sources. Okay. So hear me out. This is the situation and the conversations that are being had. And again, I would make a terrible agent, and you'll see why, because I don't puff no smoke. I don't give people what they want to hear. I give people what they need to hear. I think you figured that out by now with how long I've been doing this. Okay. I don't sugarcoat nothing. Especially with players and especially with recruits, because they don't want that. They want you to be real with them. They want the honesty. That's the way coaches should recruit them. They shouldn't recruit them as used car salesmen, as my stepdad Mike used to tell me all the time. Shout out to Mike. He texted me today. I think he's listening to tonight's show. But shout out to him. Don't be a used car salesman. Be real. Tell him what the issues are. Tell him what it is. So we'll start with Jamari, and I'll give you the real. So here's the thing, Jamari. Your grade came back a little bit higher than we were expecting, honestly. It came back a little bit higher than we thought. That's all great news. But the NFL wants you to play guard. They don't want you to play tackle. You are a guard on the NFL level. So I think it would behoove you to come back for a fourth year. And I think you should walk into Matt Luke's office tomorrow and tell him, if I'm coming back, it's because I'm coming back to play guard. And that is that. If you tell me you want me to play tackle, sorry, I'm going to the NFL. Okay. That should be your demands. You have the power to do that. You are a 2-year or a 1-year starter. You made the sacrifice for the team, kicking out the tackle this year. That's all great. They need to reward you by kicking you inside the guard next year. Also, there's these two guys by the name of Broderick Jones and Marius Mims that they're itching to play. They're going to play. So, Jamari, you need to go back for a fourth year, okay? You need to play guard. You need to put a bigger sample size back on tape, because I'll be honest with you, Jamari, they moved you to guard during the Peach Bowl to allow you to have one more opportunity to show the NFL that you are ready to go to the NFL and play guard, and you didn't have a great game. And I know it's okay. I know it's okay because you hadn't played there all year. It was a little bit different. You only had about 12, I would say about 8 practices really to get comfortable back at playing left guard. But it didn't look great. You were laid off the ball a lot. You made some mistakes. Your pad level wasn't great. Your footwork wasn't great. You need a year to fine-tune those things up and get ready for the NFL. So, Jamari, I think it would be best for you to go back to Georgia for another year. I think that would be best for you. And let's be honest, you just had your knees scoped. That's breaking news right there. It's not breaking news, but it's news. If you don't know, he just had his knees scoped again. So you're not going to be ready for an NFL combine. So, yeah, you need to go back to college, and I think you ultimately will. So that's my agent pitch to Jamari. Now let's talk about Zamir. So here's the deal, Zamir. I'll be brutally honest with you, just like I just was with Jamari. Your stock's not looking great, man. It's not looking great. You didn't do this year what we thought you were going to do. Okay. You had a above average year. I think 780 yards. You led your team in rushing, but you were about 7th or 8th in the SEC in rushing. And heading into the NFL draft, no one's really talking about you. So the stock's not where we want it to be. But history shows you, Zamir, over the last 5 drafts, there's only been 8 running backs taken in the first round anyways. So unless you're the back or one of the 2 running backs, you ain't going in the first round anyways. But history also shows you that, hey, man, Kareem Hunt's had a great career being drafted in the 3rd round. He's gotten some trouble, but that's on him. Great career. Marlon Mack, great career, drafted out of the 4th round. Chris Carson, great career, drafted out of the 7th round. Austin Eckler, great career, undrafted in the NFL draft. History tells me it doesn't matter where you get drafted as long as you perform and produce on the NFL level. So, Zamir, barring a Heisman Trophy campaign, which I'll be honest, I don't see next year at Georgia, you're probably not going in the first round, most likely next year anyways, even if you were to come back. Not to mention, I don't know if you've seen Kendall Milton run the football this year, but that dude's pretty damn good. And the offensive staff thinks he's pretty damn good too. So, yeah, it's probably time for him to get some carries, young man. So your 730 yards or whatever it was this year, great performance. Let's call it a day. Georgia, your time at Georgia is probably done. So let's move on. And let's go to the NFL. I think that's probably best for you. Because again, you're not a first-round draft pick. That's okay. You don't have to be. You're a running back. History shows you about 15 running backs are taken every single year in the NFL draft. As long as you're one of those 15, that's okay. And even if you're not, guys like Austin Eckler show us that you don't have to be drafted to be great in the NFL. You just have to produce once you get there. And eventually, somebody will take you. They will pick you up. And not to mention, let's talk about the injury history, right, Zamir? We know what it is. You've had injuries on both your knees. And God forbid that happens again next year. So your workload's going to decrease. There's a potential chance of injury, and it's going to take a Heisman, candidacy for you to even improve your draft stock anyways. Yeah, a national title or a chance at one's great, but so is playing in the NFL, and you might risk that by coming back next year. So let's go on and get somewhat paid, and let's go get in an NFL camp and prove that we can play on the next level. How about that? Again, no sugar. I'd be a terrible agent. They wouldn't like me. They would never hire me. All right, we got our second phone call of the night. I don't know. I think it's Atlanta numbers, 404. Do me a favor, 404. Turn the show in the background down for me or mute the TV because you are now live on radio. Yep, you got it there for me because I don't hear myself echo. All right, what do you got for me, 404?
What's up, folks? It's Evan. Sorry I had you back there. One thing I wanted to talk about really quickly was the kind of the culture that Coach Smart has built at Georgia. If you look around college football, there's kind of been two coaches over the last, 7-8 years that have been able to put forth national champions consistently. Dabo Swinney, Nick Saban. As we know, Nick Saban is older. He'll be, you'd have to assume within the next however many years on the way out. So there's going to be other coaches that are going to try to break into that elite coaching threshold. Coach Smart's one of them. And if you look around the SEC, other schools have had culture issues in recent years. You look at LSU with their recruiting situation, Ole Miss a few years ago. Auburn can't even get the University of Louisiana coach on their coaching staff at first. And it's kind of been the opposite with Georgia and Coach Smart. If you look at, especially in the second half of the bowl game, I think that's the best indicator of it. How much everyone has bought into this team, and that's evidenced, by Jordan Davis coming back, among other players. So, what are your thoughts on that?
All right, Evan, I appreciate your phone call. We'll take it off air. Here's my deal. There's two teams fighting for the SEC East, right? There's only two. I mean, Tennessee thought they were there, right? Not there. Okay. They hired, and we're going to get there. I don't want to spoil. We won't even get into Tennessee yet. We're talking about Florida and Georgia. One coach got his daggum doors blown off in a bowl game that he deemed meaningless and his players deemed meaningless. Went after the game, spoke to the media about how, we played our last game in 2021, yada, yada, yada. I thought our backups played really well. And then started flirting with the NFL, along with bringing pretty steep recruiting violations, as close to sanctions as we possibly could get in college football. That's what Dan Mullen did at Florida. Whereas the flip side, we play for the greatest university in the world, baby, University of Georgia. We play for each other, right? Like, y'all watch the Kirby. That's my Kirby Smart impression after the peach. That's all I got. There you go. Like, that's the difference, right? One team fought their absolute backside off in a quote-unquote meaningless bowl game. Take those culture questions, throw them in the garbage, throw them on some other program. So, yeah, I think it's questions about Saban potentially leaving. Like, I think Saban's contract's through 2024, so that dude's going to be around for at least 3 more seasons. Like, he ain't no quitter. He ain't just going to pick up and go home. So, he going to be around. Dabo Swinney going to be around, all those things. So, I do believe Kirby, he has to get to that next level, okay? And what he's done offensively, what he's committed to offensively, I think he learned. Like, he has figured it out. There is a maturation process with the coach in Kirby. So here's the thing I like to tell people when they bring me the Kirby Smart stuff. Fire Kirby Smart tomorrow and watch how many programs fire their coach in hopes of getting Kirby Smart. I'm serious. Fire Kirby Smart at the University of Georgia and watch Auburn fire their brand new head coach. Eat that freaking buyout. They would eat that buyout in a heartbeat. Jeremy Pruitt, they wouldn't even worry about the damn search committee that we're going to talk about. They fire him, eat the $13 million, and bring Kirby Smart. Come on, okay? All of them, every single one of them, except Alabama, Clemson, and Notre Dame. Notre Dame will probably do it too. Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State. Every other program, if Kirby Smart said, "Hey, athletic director up at Notre Dame, athletic director up at let's call it Texas. I know you just hired Sark. I want you to eat that $18 million or whatever you got him for, whatever, eat it. And I want $5.5 million a year for the next 4 years, and you're gonna give me that contract and you're gonna hire me." They're like, "All right, bet. We're gonna send the private jet over there and pick you up in Athens. Appreciate you." So that's what kind of coach he is. That's how high in demand he is. That tells you everything you need to know about your coach. He'll win eventually, but he better win this year. I'm telling you, and he'll tell you that too. If he's sitting at home, he's telling himself, "This is my shot." I guarantee you, because these guys are ultra competitive. They know they can look around in the landscape. It don't take no genius to look around and say, Bama's down next year, Clemson's down next year, Ohio State's down next year, Notre Dame's down next year. I am the only perennial playoff team opponent, except for Oklahoma, that can look at 2021 and say, we got a better team and a better shot than we did in 2020. So we best go win. Okay. Georgia and Oklahoma are the only two teams that do that. And coincidentally, they've got two of the best young coaches and kind of newer coaches in terms of they've only been coaching for 4 or 5 years in Kirby Smart and Lincoln Riley that don't have a natty. They don't have a national championship under their belt. So the demands are next year to go win a national championship. Okay. All right. Let's talk about Jamie Newman. I wrote an article about this today. I like Jamie a lot, but let's be honest. Jamie cost himself some money. I don't know who was in his ear. I don't believe it was a COVID issue. I don't, because as we saw, coaches do a lot of coach speak, but the safest place for Jamie Newman to be was on Georgia's campus. I do believe that. I 100% believe that, because I know Georgia's staff was very, very adamant about not only contact tracing, not only testing. If you got COVID and you were a college football player, you knew within 24 hours immediately. I would say less than that. Within like 12 hours, you knew, okay? They were testing you that regularly. They were treating you. They were taking heart monograms. They were doing all that stuff. So the best place for you to be in terms of medical attention and consistent medical attention, and the fact that everyone else around you was caring about what was going on with COVID, was a Power 5 football program. So I don't believe you opt out for COVID, because it's hard for me to believe that. I think it was a great opportunity and a great excuse for you to bounce. Okay, let's be honest, for you to get out. Okay, so that's that. We'll start with that. But you have to, when you make a decision like that, you have to be willing to take the criticism and the backlash after the fact. For people like me to sit here and say, well, let's go through it. Let's decide whether or not you did make a good decision, or whether or not you cost yourself, at least a couple $100,000. Or potentially even millions. All right. So again, I wrote the article today on dogsdaily.com. You should check it out. It's really, really in depth. I've been hammering this point. We've already addressed it on NBR at least once. So we'll be pretty quick on this one. One, Zach Wilson, Kyle Trask, Mac Jones, all leapfrogged you this year. All of them. Every single one of them going into the 2020 college football season were behind you and probably weren't even thought about in terms of quarterbacks discussions in the NFL draft. They are now ahead of you. Okay. And not only that, you sacrificed the opportunity to leapfrog a guy like Trey Lance, who, didn't get to play this year, wasn't on him. And you probably weren't going to be able to get to leapfrog Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence. They were going to go 1 and 2, or in this case, some people think there's a chance that Zach Wilson goes 3, not after what Justin Fields did in the playoff and what he might do in the national championship game. So throw that one out of the way. You weren't leapfrogging Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, but you not playing took you from, having the opportunity to play yourself into the number 3 quarterback discussion to watching others play themselves ahead of you and launch you into what? QB7, right? Let's talk about it. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Kyle Trask, Mac Jones, Jamie Newman, QB7. So what does the history tell you, Brooks, about what happens to QB7 in the NFL draft? Well, I got the answers for you. I did the research. The last 5 years, the 7th quarterback taken has gone in the 4th round every single time. So I've already told you on this show before, 3.8 quarterbacks, 3.8, because it's not a whole number. I know. So at least 3, most of the time 4 quarterbacks are taken in the first round. So you had an opportunity to play yourself into the first round or cement yourself as a first-round quarterback, and now you're a 4th-round quarterback. Somebody go run and look at because they're slotted salaries. Go look at the salary difference and the signing bonus difference between a first-round quarterback and a 4th-round quarterback. It's a lot of money, okay? He cost himself a lot of money. Not only that, he would have played really, really well in that Todd Monken system. He is a drive the ball down the field type of quarterback. That is a drive the ball down the field type of offense. And he would have demanded an additional safety play in the box because of how good he runs the football. These are facts, folks. It would have happened. He would have played really, really well in Todd Monken's system, and he was slotted to be starter. So he bounced, and bouncing cost him money. It's fair to talk about that. I 100% believe that. It is fair to sit here and criticize that decision. Just like it's fair to sit here and criticize the decision of Jamar Chase opting out and Devontae Smith launching over him. Devontae Smith coming into the 2020 college football season was maybe a early second-round draft pick. Now he might go in the top 10. Whereas entering the season, Jamar Chase was consensus lock to be the number 1 wide receiver off the board. And now there is an actual discussion, okay? That's millions of dollars over there of who goes first, okay? So, yeah, opting out saved you the opportunity to get to, potentially get hurt, but it cost you money, period. End of story. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I think that's very, very, reasonable to talk about. You can't make these kind of national decisions and not expect some type of backlash or criticism for that matter. So whether it was your decision, Jamie, whether it was whoever was in your ear, whether it was your family that you were, so important to protect, maybe you just wanted to spend some time with your family because there's a lot of kids this year that play college football that didn't get to go home. I understand that. I'm with you. I'm not saying I don't support your decision to opt out. I'm saying your decision should come with some criticism, and I just gave it to you in the form of about a 6-minute rant. So there you go. All right. Not great. Not a great decision from Jamie Newman. Let's get into this Tennessee clown circus. Clown show is what I'll call it. Let's just go through a little timeline right here. You ready? This is going to be fun. This is going to be real, real fun, especially if you're a Georgia fan. In September of this year, prior to the start of the 2020 season, the University of Tennessee and their illustrious, historic former head coach, now turned athletic director, Phil Fulmer, decided he was going to give Jeremy Pruitt a brand new 4-year extension through the 2025 football season, all the way up until January of 2026, worth, wait for it, $4.2 million. $4.2 million, gave him a contract extension, all because he finished the season winning 6 games, the same season in which he started by losing to Georgia State at home. So let's call that a bad decision, right? I think especially with hindsight, we can call that a bad decision. They had, plenty of recruiting momentum. That's what you want to call it. It seemed like it. The fan base told me, my mentions told me that Tennessee was back, baby. Tennessee's recruiting like Tennessee used to. Tennessee is back. Look how we're recruiting. 3-7 football season this year in 2020. 3-7 football season. I'll tell you what, everybody who is anybody that knows anything about that conference saw it coming. I talked to multiple SEC staffers. When I brought up the idea of Tennessee, they laughed. They all sat back with popcorn, the Michael Jackson meme, waiting for this clown show to appear, waiting for this to become a dumpster fire. And guess what? It did. 3-7. And now Tennessee's new athletic director, he's got a year under his belt, but Tennessee's athletic director now, guess what he did? He's got a head coach that has a contract extension they just gave in September, literally, 4 months ago? Just gave him a contract extension, and now, guess what he's done? He's gone out and hired a private firm to come in and find, some type of fireable offense, whether it be a recruiting violation, whether it be some type of whatever, a scandal, trying to find a minuscule scandal just big enough to fire this joker with cause. And why? Why is he doing this, Brooks? Well, he's doing this because his dumb butt failed to give Jeremy Pruitt a non-compete clause and left him a $14 million buyout clause in his contract. When he gave him that extension, it came with, you fire me tomorrow, you pay me $14 million to go stand on Alabama's sideline and be their defensive coordinator. That's what they did. That's why they've gone out and hired a private investigating firm to come and expose their own program, all because their big money boosters are not happy with the current state of their program. But they were happy enough to give Jeremy Pruitt a contract extension last year, all because of what? Because of what? Because in September, he had 26 commits in the 2021 class, all of which, if you've really looked at it, ain't that great. So now what are they doing? Now they're out here throwing dirt on a Georgia commit's name. And I won't even get too far into it because I think it's total bullcrap. And if you've signed up for our Patreon account, patreon.com/Brooks Austin, you know exactly what happened. You know exactly what these quote unquote allegations are. You know exactly why they're doing what they're doing. I'll give you a little thing. Okay. They're trying to go after Marius Mims for something that happened the same week, or they're at least naming Marius Mims in a report for something that happened the same weekend Dylan Brooks and Cody Brown were there. Why do you think Dylan Brooks and Cody Brown's names aren't mentioned in the investigation? Why? Because they're Tennessee commits. Okay. That's why. Okay. It's a joke, man. It's an absolute joke. It is a program in the SEC that is going out of their way to dig up dirt on their own program because they don't want to shill out $13 million to their current head coach. Absolute joke. Absolute freaking joke. Can't get over it. I got to take a phone call before I say something I don't like. 770, you are on the air, my brother. Hello?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get everything set up here. Brooks, this is Andrew. I think you know who it is. And man, this whole Tennessee situation, man, it's just it's if it was something new, I could maybe forgive it. But Brooks, my brother, Tennessee has been this way for years. They've been this way. For years, they have gone through coach after coach. AD director has gone through coach after coach. They don't have the facilities. They don't have anything there. They are still stuck in 1996 with freaking Peyton Manning as their freaking QB. That is where Tennessee is. And the problem is with this is that they keep trying to bring themselves to this level, but they do not have any interest in trying to actually bring the program to that level via the money that they have. So what I like at this is not only are you trying to cheapskate out of actually bringing your program up to today's standard, you're now going through and dragging some kid's name through the mud in order to try to get rid of your coach that you weren't smart enough to pay the $14 million to pay for. That, I don't know about you, buddy. Actually, I do know about you. That pisses me off. And I think that should piss just about every Tennessee fan off as well. And if I was Tennessee, any of the Tennessee fans, I'd want their athletic director fired this instant. I'm a Georgia fan, and I want him fired this instant. You do not do that. This kid is out here just trying to make the best decision that he can for his life, for his very life, his future on the line. And you think dragging this kid's name through the mud is actually beneficial for you? If that doesn't make your entire program look the worst in the SEC, including Vanderbilt, I might add.
Ooh.
I don't know what to tell you. And you know what else, Brooks, while we're on this topic? Because I also want to bring in Auburn on this as well. Because how in the world do you have boosters going through and firing the one coach in the SEC who had at least some semblance of the ability to beat Nick Saban? I don't understand that. And if I'm a kid going through and dealing with any of these schools, and if I'm and they're recruiting me to play, I'm just looking at this and like, why would I want to go there? Why would I want to go there? Anyways, that's it for me going in and ranting, Brooks. I appreciate the time, man.
Hey, let's, as a collective audience, let's give my boy Andrew, that's his government name. Let's give SSL a golf clap from the Patreon family. Let's give my buddy a golf clap. He's been watching Brooks's NBR shows. He has figured it out. That was a rant. My man is super hyped up about that, as he should be. And here's my deal. Look, I've been covering college football. I've been covering SEC for 2 years now. They didn't need to hire no damn firm. I'm telling you, they didn't need to hire no search firm. I've been covering this game long enough to know I would have went out there and found some dirt. I guarantee you, I would have found some dirt. But here's the deal. Here's the deal about hiring a company to come in and search through your own program and then give you the results and allow you to leak them to Mark Schlabach, which ultimately gets picked up by another outlet and another outlet and another outlet, some of which are Georgia outlets. Okay, wasn't me. Ain't gonna tell you who it was. You probably found out on your own. Okay, so the thing about that, when you hire someone to investigate yourself, okay, it would be like hiring your what do you call it? Your counselor. It would be like you going out and having a side meeting with your own counselor, okay, for marriage counseling, and then going into a marriage counseling session with your wife, having already rigged the system with the counselor behind the doors. That's the same thing. That's what they're doing. So do you think they're going to go through and dig up the actual skeletons in the closet at Tennessee? Hell to the no. Hell to the no. They're going to get up just enough dirt on this dude in Jeremy Pruitt to fire his butt for reasonable cause. So they don't have to shill out $14 million. That's what we're talking about. $14 million, which sounds like a lot. Don't get me wrong. It's 13.8, actually, I believe it was. No, 12.8. It's less than that. $12.8 million is his buyout clause. Guess what? They've got a new addition they're putting on Newman Stadium, which Andrew's right. It's 1996 over there in terms of facilities. They got a new stadium addition that I believe costs $80 million. So they can pay for that. They can pay. Hell yeah, we'll make renovations to our stadium. But we can't pay 12.8 million dollars to get rid of our coach who we want to get rid of for no reason. For no reason. Because he went 3-7. You're Tennessee, man. You're gonna stay Tennessee because you keep doing this stuff. I ain't never in my life heard some crap like this. The NCAA had to go in there and do some research on Florida. The NCAA had to go in there and do some research on Ole Miss. Georgia self-reports coaches given improper contact, what's called a greeting with a recruit from 2020. Okay. Those are the type of self-reporting they do. The NCAA comes and gets you when they know you're doing crooked stuff. Tennessee went out here and hired a private investigating firm to dig up dirt on their own program and then selectively released the dirt in which they found. Because here's the deal. If they actually released every single thing they found, it wouldn't just be firing Jeremy Pruitt. It would be sanctions on the damn program. So they can't do all that. So what do? They throw dirt on the 5-star that just signed at another program. That's what they do. Okay. They throw dirt on the sophomore running back that they got, who they're 3-7 anyways. Who gives a crap? Okay. That's what they do. They throw defamation suits, or they throw defamation on the names of kids instead of going after the actual issue. That's what they do. And if you can't tell, I close the show with that tonight because that ticks me off. It's dirty. It's wrong. It's flat out wrong to go after an 18-year-old kid instead of dealing with the problems that you created, Philip Fulmer. That's what you did. You gave that joker a contract extension. You gave that joker no non-compete clause. You gave that joker $4.2 million through 2025. That's you, buddy. That's you. That ain't some kid taking, some money for some food while he's on a visit. That's what that is. Ain't got nothing to do with no 18-year-old kid. That's your mistakes. So deal with them like a man. Everybody asks these kids to be men, but the men running these programs act like little children. That's the problem. That's the problem. It's crooked. It's crooked as hell. As I told you a while back, the game being crooked. Y'all just ain't been woke. I'm out of here. We'll